Ryan Johansson has been. He's just not had it for us.
And these teams that we're playing, they're not chump teams. Honestly, if Landeskog's back and Landeskog is normal Landeskog, could compete with the 2022 roster.
USA Hockey is do or die. Welcome to the second episode of the Mile High Sports Avalanche podcast. Welcome back. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's just going to be me and Ian today. If you don't remember, I'm Nicky. You can follow me on Twitter at MolatorisNick. And Ian runs the Avs Insider Instagram page, which you probably already follow, but you should go follow if you aren't. And we're back. And we're back with the Avs being back from the All-Star break. All-Star game was fun. Makar and McKinnon and Georgiev all had their own moments. And the Avs came back with a bit of a disappointing loss to the Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, that game was fun. It was a really fun game. We kind of got goalied, by Jonathan Quick, which is, crazy. Considering
the Rangers too.
Yeah, it just feels a little off. But honestly, Quick's been having a good season this year, so it's not like we lost to an AHL goalie or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But overall, good game. I mean, we got a point. We could have gotten the second one, but
they played really well. I think coming out of the All-Star break, you feel like you're a little worried. I think it was the 2022 season when we won the Cup. They just started after breaks really slow. I remember the COVID break before January, they came out slow. I remember start of the season, the All-Star break, it was all kind of slow. They've not done that here. Even though they didn't get the win, they played really well, I think.
Yeah, they did, honestly. It looked like they had their legs. Most of those guys probably took vacation or, did whatever. And they looked like they came back there the same team. I mean, McKinnon was the same player. Makar was the same player. It felt like at points, the guys were a little bit off. They'd be in the offensive zone and some passes wouldn't be made. And, they were expecting guys to be places that they weren't. But honestly, pretty good game for game back. You get a point against a team that's very high in the standings. So what can we complain about?
They've got a game tomorrow against the Devils. I'm sure by the time this is up, that game will have already happened. But they came back and they looked like the Avs, which is certainly a positive for sure. Not everyone was great, but they were good overall. McKinney getting another point. And it's a good segue into what we're going to be talking about for the rest of this episode, which is second half expectations. Even though it's more or less 30 games than the 41, we're entering the second half of the season. And the Avs have been really, really good this year. I think that's not the secret at all. They've got a really long road trip coming up. They played the first game of it, but it's going to be 6 games total in a row on the road. And I think that might have a big impact as to how the second half kind of starts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you've got 6 big games coming up. You got New Jersey tomorrow, back-to-back. Who knows if Georgiev's going to start that one or if we're going to go with Onanen. And these teams that we're playing, they're not chump teams. We got the Devils. We have the Hurricanes, the Panthers. The Panthers are amazing.
Panthers are
the Capitals have played so much better compared to the start of their season. And the Lightning, they might not be the usual Lightning this season, but they're still the Lightning. So
I think that Nate's going to step it up though because he wants to beat Kucherov.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, Nate's been snubbed out of the heart, a few times now. I think that game, Kucherov versus McKinnon, I think both players are going to come out. They're going to produce. They're going to be fun.
For sure. I think this is a really big road trip. In terms of just the overall, setting of the rest of the second half. The trips have been really good overall, but not great on the road. If they win a lot of these games, pick up 4 of the 6 maybe, or even just 3 of the 6, you can feel good about yourselves. Tough opponents on the road. Enter the nicer portion of the second half feeling good about yourselves. And on the flip side, I really hope they don't lose 5 of 6. You know what I mean? And come out of this feeling real crappy about themselves, maybe not in first anymore. They kind of need to take this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, the good thing about, having a really long road trip and coming out with most of those points and most of those games is that you have more home games for the rest of the season, So if you can take advantage of, 3 or 4 of those 6 games, come out of that with as many points as possible. We have a 5-game homestand, I think in March, and that's near the end of the season. 75% of our games in March and April are at home, where it really matters, where we need the points. So getting it out of the way kind of now, it's going to be good. The team looked fine. I'm not worried about anything. I think we're going to win 3 or 4 of those games.
Absolutely. I would hope so, and it could set the tone for a really big second half, because like you said, a lot of home games too. And in the first half, they had a lot of the easier opponents, but until really the last month, they're not going to have a ton of difficult opponents, which I think is a good way to bring in the next thing I want to talk about, which is what I think the standings are going to look like. Because I think that last month is going to be huge. I don't have it in front of me right now, but I know they play Edmonton in that month. They play Winnipeg in that month, I think twice. I know they play the Stars in that month, at least once, I think twice too. There's a lot of divisional games. It really might come down to that.
It really might. Those divisional games are huge. You look at our teams like you said Winnipeg, Dallas. They're also closely knit. Anyone could win the division. Anyone could be playing, the wild card Blues or the wild card Predators, and then the other team's stuck with, the Stars or something like that. So it really will play a difference, and I think we'll be fine. So I know this team.
I mean, yeah, I don't think there's anyone we can't beat, right? Like, I'll be honest, Dallas, kind of a pretender. I mean, maybe not, but they are. Like, they've got a lot of overtime wins and a lot of overtime losses. They're just not finishing teams off. I'm not terrified of the Dallas Stars, but Winnipeg's tough. I'd rather not play Dallas either. I would like to see the Avs find a way into that first spot, just so they can have an easier, we saw the Kraken can beat you too, an easier first-round opponent.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, with the pieces that we're going to be getting, by the end of the season, we already got Parise, who looks good,
Yeah, good for
you think about the probability with Landeskog, there's a million questions with him. That's a whole episode that we could talk about.
We could, yeah.
But, theoretically, you look at, okay, a guy like Landeskog could come back. Then you've got guys like Nikolai Kovalenko, who has been on a little bit of a cold streak, and he's, kind of getting hurt a little bit, which I don't really like, but he's still a great hockey player that we're going to pick up and immediately going to fill into our lineup. I think, by day's end, by season's end, we're going to have a lineup that's honestly, if Landeskog's back and Landeskog is normal Landeskog, could compete with the 2022 roster, which is crazy to say, but, I genuinely think that's true. Everyone did not see, so nobody saw Parise coming, and till the last second, but he played great. So this team has depth. This team could win games without Parise, Landeskog, Kovalenko already, so filling those guys down the lineup, it's going to be hard to say, like, oh, do we take out Freddie Olofsson? Like, what do we do with, Cogliano all of a sudden, and just kind of players like that. Like, you have a lot of depth.
Yeah, but bottom of the roster problems are good problems to have if it's like you're running out of spots.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think Parise, his first game with us, he had a lot of energy. He was moving his legs still. Guy's 39, I want to say.
Yeah, he is. Right? Yeah, 39.
He's got legs. Like, I can't believe a 39-year-old in the NHL skating the way he did. I doubt he's going to be scoring a ton. I think he's older. We'll see. I hope he proves me wrong. But either way, it's another ad for the depth. Like you said, I'm really excited about Kovalenko. I'm sure if we had Yager on here for his first episode, he'd be gushing all over Kovalenko too, just how great that guy's been in Russia and how big of an impact he's going to have. I think a big question with this roster, though, is going to be trade deadline, because I'm not 100% sure with Kovalenko coming, they're going to make a big move. And honestly, it might just be swapping pieces if they can, and they might have to, because I think, you could talk about goaltending, but it's been a lot better recently. I think maybe the biggest glaring issue on this team is 2C and how bad Ryan Johansson has been. He's just not had it for us.
I think Johansson, I think he's a good hockey player, but I don't think he's in the right system. No. I think he's playing Predators hockey on an Avalanche team. He has the ability to score. He has the ability to produce, but on a team that's built on speed, he's not the fastest guy. There's a lot of times where you feel like you should be playing a tuba when you're watching him skate on TV. And I understand that Johansson was a very big risk picking up. We got him for Galchenyuk. We got him at 50% retained. but he's still holding a lot of salary cap space that could be going to a player that will produce and will be productive, that will truly take this team to a level that is even further than it is now.
Yeah, and it's gotten a lot harder. Lindholm's already come off the board. Monahan's come off the board. I'll be honest, I wasn't thrilled about the idea of either of them. I know some people on Twitter, Blake Wheeler especially, is going to be mad at me for that. I don't think Lindholm was the solution at all. I think he was going to be way too expensive, and he was expensive for the Canucks. Monahan, too. I can't believe Montreal got a first for him. But those were like two of the guys, the two main guys on the market for 2C. The Avs now have a real big question. Is it going to be enough if they add like an Adam Henrique? And I don't know that it will be. He might just be Johansson number 2. And what do they do with Johansson then? Are they going to shelter him on the fourth line where his impact is going to be next to nothing positive? Or are they going to try to flip him? And how do you make a deal work where you do flip him? I think it's going to be a tough question because I don't know where they're supposed to go.
I'm not too sure either. I mean, I couldn't look at a team in the league and tell you that they would pay more to take Ryan Johansson at this stage. You know, he started off the season great, honestly. You know, at one point, I'm not kidding, he had more goals than Connor McDavid. And like that's not just like 1 or 2 games in. That was like 20 games into the season, he had more goals than Connor McDavid. So, you know, he was producing, but he just doesn't fit this team.
He doesn't. And I think there's a couple other roster questions. Some stuff that I don't think the Avs are actually going to do. I'd like to see them maybe try to move on from Jack Johnson. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think Bednar loves him, which beats me. But it's clogging a spot for Malinsky, which drives me nuts. I don't know. I do look at this roster and I think it's pretty complete. But it also feels like it needs something. And without that something, I'm worrying. You know what I mean?
I agree. Either way, though, I think that with whatever happens and what the team looks like now, I think that moving forward after the All-Star break, we're going to be completely fine. And I think that that's really just what we can say right now is that we're going to be completely fine. You know, don't overreact to a loss. If the team drops a couple in a row, you know, deal with it, whatever. Stuff happens. There's always a down point in every season. We just don't want that down point to be, you know, at the end or the playoffs. So I think, honestly, right now, we're in a pretty good spot, and there's no need to worry.
Yeah. You know, I do think this is I wouldn't call it a prediction because I don't think it's really going to happen. This is maybe my little, you know, off the list kind of pickup. Maybe Casey Middlestat. I mean, there's been rumors about him being looked at. He feels like an Avalanche type pickup because he's not really someone that we've been talking about, but he would fit the team, I think, really well.
Yeah.
I think it'll be expensive. I don't know that they'll do it, but maybe that solves the problem.
Yeah. I think there's a million ideas out there that are totally possible and totally good. And, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, we should go after this guy, we should go after this guy, you know what I mean? But,
yeah.
You know, C-Mac's going to find the right guy. So,
yeah, we got to trust him. C-Mac and Trader Joe. Yeah. It's exciting. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited.
I'd say really all we got to talk about left is what we think this season's really going to look like when we get there. What's our kind of prediction? And I think, honestly, I look at the way the Avs have played this year when things have gotten tough, how they reacted to some of those uglier injuries, how they reacted to their defense getting emptied, how the goaltending's been awful and they've won in spite of it. I'm going to say the Avs are going to find a way to take that first spot in the Central. And I think they're going to go into the playoffs probably on fire with those big matchups late. I think they're going to care maybe more than their opponents. You know, the McKinnon effort. And that's kind of how I'm thinking it's going to go. What about you?
I definitely think there's a chance we can get the first spot in the division. I look at a team like Winnipeg. You know, adding Monahan, it's cool. But, you know, he's kind of, you know, his point totals don't describe him as a player, you know. No. So, but Winnipeg did get better, you know, with that trade. So I think, I do think Winnipeg and Dallas, I think Dallas is going to be scarier in the playoffs than Winnipeg. I think when you get to the playoffs, it's a different story. I don't think Winnipeg's going to get out of round 2. You know, if they even get out of round 1, I think they're going to get surprised, you know, in the first round, or they're going to come up against us or Dallas in the first, and, you know, they're going to be knocked out early. But I think the Avs, no matter what happens, I think, we can secure a top 2 spot in the Central. I think,
Well, nice.
exactly, yeah. I think first is definitely not out of the question. I think it's totally possible, and I think it's probable. I'm not going to say that I think we're going to win the cup. I'm not going to say that I think we're going to make the third round, because the playoffs is totally different, and anything could happen at any moment. But I think the expectation with the roster is to go for a cup.
At least conference finals. That's what I said coming into the year. That's kind of how I think they look. There's some really hot teams like the Oilers, so who knows? But I think the outlook's good entering the second half in spite of the loss. We're just about out of time, so I do want to ask Ian, what is your closing thought for this episode really fast before I get to mine?
My closing thought for this episode is that they are treating the 2 Super Bowl teams like they are friendly and they are buddies and they're taking selfies together. I don't want to see that. I want to see rivalry. I want to see competition. I don't want to see I don't want to see a selfie with Mahomes and Purdy. I don't want to see a selfie with Mahomes in general. I don't want to see that.
I don't want to see Mahomes, honestly.
No, I don't want to see any Chief. But no, that's my closing thought, is that I'm excited for the Super Bowl. I think it'll be fun. I'm going to be, I'm home in Colorado right now, but I'll be in Arizona to watch it, so I'll be able to catch it. And when the Buccaneers beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I was on a plane, so I didn't get to watch the Chiefs lose in beautiful fashion. So this is my time.
Terrible. It's your time, absolutely. And yeah, hopefully Purdy can save us. My closing thought, really simply, is you might be looking at that and thinking I had a Rangers jersey back there by my Landeskog head, but that's a Team USA jersey. During the All-Star break, the NHL announced that hockey's coming back to the Olympics in 2026, and I'm just here to say that USA hockey is do or die. All right, there's nothing else to it. Canada's time is done. It's done. It's our time. It's time for the United States to take hockey. I think we're going to win gold in 2026. Like I have any clue what that team's going to look like. But that's my closing thought.
Good old hockey chant. Take the Gatorade in your glass. Just can't do it.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you guys for some more episodes. This was the Mile High Sports Avalanche podcast. Once again, I'm Nikki. That was Ian. You can follow me at MallTaurusNick on Twitter, and of course, follow Avs Insider on Instagram, and we will see you guys another time.